Hello everybody, we're going to continue with our devotional, the devotional written by Andrew Billington, and we're looking at Matthew chapter 4 verses 18 to 22. You can just about hear the rain on the conservatory roof, I'm afraid, but it's one of those stormy days. Anyway, let's dive straight in. It's the call of the disciples. As Jesus was walking beside the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers, Simon, called Peter, and his brother Andrew. They were casting their net into the lake, for they were fishermen. "Come, follow me," Jesus said, "and I will send you out to fish for people." At once they left their nets and followed him. Going on from there, he saw two other brothers, James, son of Zebedee, and his brother John. They were in a boat with their father Zebedee, preparing the nets. Jesus called them, and immediately they left the boat and their father and followed him. Well, Andrew Billington, the writer of our devotional, says it was perfectly normal for those who wanted to follow a teacher to choose for themselves who to follow, and then they would go and listen, sit at their feet, and they would follow them. As they did with people like John the Baptist, he had disciples, and others did too. But Jesus takes the initiative. He calls his own disciples, and when he calls, they appear to respond. But it's worth noting that in each of the four Gospels, it includes an account of the calling of the first disciples, but the order that they are called in kind of varies from gospel to gospel. But piecing all the accounts together, we can see that the first 6 disciples to be called were Peter, Andrew, James, John, Philip, and Nathaniel, sometimes called Bartholomew. And the account in John chapter 1, 35 to 51 also includes an encounter Jesus has with Andrew and Simon Peter. Some commentaries conclude, therefore, that this one, that John's account, must have happened before the official calling that we read about in Matthew. So if we follow that line of thinking, when Jesus told Simon Peter and Andrew in the fishing boat to follow me, it's possible that they weren't following a complete stranger. It was someone that they had spent time with. And the same was possible for Andrew, James, and John. Matthew, also called Levi, he was called separately sometime after the first 6. And the Bible doesn't actually describe the calling of the other 5 disciples. Some commentaries get very preoccupied with trying to unravel the differing accounts and the order in which they were called. But I think that's perhaps a bit of a distraction. In my view, it's better to focus on the fact that they were called at all. And Jesus initiates that calling. So on the face of it, none of them were particularly worthy or qualified for that calling. They had no religious pedigree to speak of. They were pretty ordinary folk. And it wasn't immediately obvious that they were going to get along. I mean, Matthew worked for the Roman government as a tax collector, and Simon was a zealot, part of a political group who sought to overthrow the Roman government. So I expect they had some very interesting conversations. But despite the diversity of backgrounds and perhaps education levels, they had an important calling as the original 12 disciples of Jesus. They became eyewitnesses of Jesus' works on earth. And, of course, don't forget his resurrection, the resurrection itself. And they learned from Jesus. That's what a disciple does. And they became trained. And it was these that laid the foundations for the church, as described in Ephesians chapter 2, verse 20. And it was through their spirit-empowered work and witness that the church began in Acts 2. Their work helped provide the New Testament writings, the letters that we have today, and you reflect on where they came from. What a journey they went on. And I'm encouraged that Jesus obviously wasn't looking for perfection. He wasn't looking for the perfect, magnificent 12. No, he wasn't looking for the finished article. Andrew Billington says that there is reassurance in the story of Jesus and his disciples. He didn't choose the perfect, but the imperfect. He trusted them to do his work in this world, empowered by the Holy Spirit. And it's an example that we can be encouraged by as we too seek to serve Jesus and become his disciples too. We listen for his voice to say, "Come, follow me," perhaps every day in a different way. Come, follow me, learn from me, Follow my example and I will guide you in the right paths. Well, I'll leave it there. You can read more in the devotional. I've just scratched the surface. God bless. Bye for now.